Aloha. Hello. You know, I haven't made many recordings at all recently because, for reasons I don't quite understand yet, I have just been totally preoccupied with helping people pass away, helping people die. And I'm not sure why that's what my soul is sending me right now, but it's so important. It has changed my life already, just in these probably 3 weeks that I've been doing this. And now still, Source is sending me more. I spent this morning answering letters with people who were taking care of dying people. But there's something in my heart that needs to tell you about this. And I haven't made any notes or made any plan, but I just want to give you the depth of this from the center of my heart. So I'll just get still for a moment. About maybe a year ago, my friend Jonathan brought me this young man who was living on the beach, and he didn't have a home, and he asked if he could stay for a little while until we helped him find a place to live. And I said, of course, we always do, and when we can. And this young man's name was Leo, and oh my God, was he gorgeous. Gorgeous in every way. He was black, he was gay, and he was working so hard to be proud of both, to be a spokesperson for black, gay young men, because that was so important to him. And so Leo moved in with us, slept in our garage in my healing room, and he was at first so helpful. And you know, we had made an agreement, well, let's find you a place in the next couple of weeks. But as he stayed, he got less and less energetic pretty quickly. And we couldn't understand what that was about. And then I finally just had to say to him, Leo, what's going on? And he told me that he had AIDS, and that he had been in the hospital so much of the time, and that he had come here, as he said, to return to his home planet. And you know what, I was never quite sure if he was just kind of joking, but he said that he came from a planet where being gay and being black was a wonderful thing, and that he had come here to teach that acceptance, that honoring here on this planet. And I thought, well, you know, that's a great metaphor. And I don't need to argue with him about reality, since I don't know what is true. And so I guess at a certain point, maybe 3 weeks into his stay, he said, Spirit, you have to be ready because I'll start throwing up blood. And he said, but I'm really hoping that being here in this love will keep that from happening this time. But it didn't. And so maybe 6 weeks into him coming to be with us, he needed to be taken to the hospital. And he was there for much longer than he wanted to be. And he felt like the people there, the nurses and the doctors, were kind to him. but he didn't feel like they understood that he was from a different reality. And so he kept saying, I have to get out of this place because I can't go to my home planet while I'm in this hospital because the belief is that I'm going to die. So he checked himself out, and we found him a place to be because we were in the middle of moving, and several people took such good care of him. And he was a musician and a dancer, an amazing dancer. And even though he still seemed sick, weak, when he went dancing, he didn't just dance for a little while. He danced all night. He danced for hours and hours with more laughs than anybody I'd ever seen. So at a certain point, he felt like there was no room here on Maui for the outrageousness of him. There was, no, I shouldn't say that. He felt like the people who honored him and took care of him totally understood his outrageousness. But could he get a job where he could use his music and his power and his, I wouldn't say he desired to shock people, but he definitely wanted to be true. And he said, so I'm going to go to Portland for just a few months so that I can get paid and gather the money to do what I do because I want to start a music company. And so he did. He went to Portland. And it didn't work. He didn't find the people to welcome him into their hearts. And he ended up in the hospital again. And finally he talked to me on the phone one day and he said, Spirit, I think that from here, in order to get to my home planet, I have to die from this body. So we talked about options. He got out of the hospital again, and he got a contract with a recording company, which blew everybody away because nobody's getting that right now. And he was teaching dance classes. And he just felt like he could not find home except on Maui. But he felt like on Maui, he couldn't find the support for his income. So again, I talked to him right after that, and he said, Spirit, I have to die. It's just time to die. I cannot fight and try to get people to understand who I am and to accept me here. And so I'm going to stop resisting death. And so he died. And they called his good friend Anara from the hospital, and because she was the one who signed papers for him. And she called me, and I called the hospital, and I called his phone, and they put the phone up next to his ear on speaker. And I got to tell him how much we all loved him and honored him, and that I was here to help him stay and take root, or I was here to honor that he just needed to leave. And so he left, and we're having his memorial service on Sunday. And he loved ice cream, and he loved macaroni and cheese. So guess what we're going to eat at his memorial service. And I did want to say that the last kind of lucid conversation I had with him, I asked what I could do to honor him the most. And he said, please tell everybody what it was like to be me. Please tell people what it's like to grow up in a family where you get disowned, not honored for being gay. Please tell people that this music and this dance that came through me was because I had so much life force. And he did. So I'm including him in this video because I want you to know about him. And before I go to the next person, I want to say that for the first time, I'm filming outside. So you're hearing the wind and you're seeing my front yard garden. It just seemed really important when I was talking about death to be in the midst of life. And so I'm going to go to the second person. But know that this is the deepest honoring that makes me want to tell you about these 4 amazing people. So right after that, my good friend Spar told me that his mother was dying. And she lived in Canada. And so Spar and his whole family gathered on Zoom most of the time for I think it was 7 or 8 days. Just all of them talking to her, sharing memories. And each day she got a little weaker. And each day they thought this was going to be the day that she passed. But she didn't, and they couldn't figure out why. And his mom was there in the bedroom with her beloved, I don't know if he was her husband or her beloved, but they loved each other very, very deeply. That was so obvious to me, even though I never met them. And so I was privileged to watch whenever I wanted to, and watch them sing to her, share memories with her, turn off their speakers when they needed to cry, come back on when they were ready to tell her wonderful memories. And finally it came to like the 6th day, and she still was, I guess it had been by that time maybe 4 days that she was not eating. Her breathing was being more and more shallow. She was not drinking unless they fed it to her through a teaspoon. And they couldn't figure out why she wasn't dying. And then one day Spar called me, and he was frustrated. He was telling me how he and her partner, his stepfather, were disagreeing about how to treat her. And I'll just say the basic, and probably not nearly definitive enough, but the basic thing was that Spar wanted to turn on his speaker on Zoom and tell her how much he loved her and what a blessing she had been. But the stepfather, the partner, felt like every time one of the family talked to her, she came back into her body, and he wanted to tell her that they were all so happy and that he wasn't even going to cry when she passed away because she had been such a blessing and there was nothing but gratitude. And so Spar felt like it was important to tell her how much she meant. The stepfather felt like it was important for her to have profound peace. And so Spar called me up and he said, why isn't she dying? What's going on? What's keeping her here? And then he told me the story of how they had argued about the way to let her die. And I said, oh, of course she's not going to die yet because she needs you to. Spar, the son, and her partner. She needs you two to be so much in love so that she knows each of you will be taken care of after she passes. And so I was so gratified when the two of them, both of these amazing men, had a long conversation where they fell in love with each other. And they told her how much they loved her and that they had different ways of showing it, but from now on, there was going to be no opinions, no arguing about that. And she came to peace. And so the next day, she passed, and I got to be there on Zoom, and I got to observe probably the most beautiful death I've ever witnessed, because she was just laying there like this, and her breath was becoming more and more shallow, shorter, and her beloved was the only person in the room with her. And he read her, I think, from the Tibetan Book of the Dead. And then there was stillness. And then he played the singing bowls for her. And at the end, he was mopping her brow and stroking her. And it just got more and more peaceful. But Spar, who was on Zoom with me, was sobbing, of course. And so I said to him, Spar, let me hold your pain while you express your love and your peace. And so he was able to do that. Do you hear that? He was able to do that. He just turned off the sobbing. I held his sorrow and his pain, and he was able to say, I love him. And it took longer than we all expected. It was maybe a few hours. And then her breath was so shallow that you couldn't hear. And she looked so peaceful, and at a certain point, her jaw dropped open. And I watched her mate go over and tuck a washcloth underneath so her jaw would be hauled up. He wanted her to have her dignity. And at the very end, after having had her eyes closed for, I don't know, maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours, she suddenly just opened her eyes, looked straight into her beloved's eyes, and she took her last breath. And it was so easy, so effortless. The most exquisite death I had ever been part of. And so here we are now, at the third death that is not yet a death, but one of the two most profound experiences in my life. So I have to tell you about it. I'm not going to use her name. She hasn't passed yet. But she's been battling cancer. And I mean battling, like she did not want this. And she's done everything she could to try to find a cure, to eat the right things, take the right medicine, go through the most painful, intense surgeries. And she still wasn't quite dying, but she was losing life force. She was getting thinner and thinner. She could no longer do any of the things that gave her joy. So maybe 6 weeks ago, she was here for a session. And I want to tell you, I'm not telling you anything that these people haven't told me that I could share. I've been very, very careful about that. Leo asked me to share. Spar wanted you to see the beauty of his mother's death. Ellie wanted people to know exactly what I'm going to tell you. Ooh, I used her name, so there it is. My good friend Ellie. So Ellie came for a session maybe 6 or 7 weeks ago. And it was clear that she was preparing, I guess, to possibly leave her body. And at the same time, she's still talking to me about that once she got past the pain she was in, next year she was going to try this treatment and that treatment. And all of us, all of her friends, really, we wanted to support her belief that she could live, that everything could turn around. And at the same time, we wanted to help her not be afraid of passing. And so when Ellie was here for the session, she said, Spirit, I don't know if I want you to hold me anymore. Because when I do sessions, I listen and we talk, but I also put my hands on them or just wrap them in my arms. And so I said, why? And she said, because every time I'm in your arms, I get so safe that I stop battling. And I think I could just pass. And I said, okay, from now on, we're not going to do that until you ask me. And so the other day, things had been getting much more painful, much more intense. My beloved friend Deborah was sleeping at her house and there all night and all morning, and then getting a small break from friends every afternoon. And we were all wanting either the miracle of life or we were wanting the miracle of the pain stopping. So when I arrived the other day, she was asleep and they weren't sure if she was in a coma. And so I just sat on a stool across from her bed. And after a little while, she opened her eyes and she looked at me and she said, Spirit, come hold me. And I'm gonna cry when I tell you this. And I said, are you sure that's what you want? And we kind of didn't want her to pass that day because her beloved sister was flying 40 hours all the way from Germany to be with her and was going to get there that evening. So we were trying, everybody was hoping that Ellie could stay awake, stay in her body long enough to be with her sister. So anyway, I laid down and wrapped her in my arms, and I put her head over my heart so she could hear my heartbeat. And people had been trying to be quiet around her, but I had the urge, the strongest urge, the silly urge to tell her jokes, to play with her, to let her know that whatever happened, this wasn't a bad thing. And so she asked me questions. She was in and out of this reality. She asked me if she was still alive. She asked me if her mother was still alive. And we had great talks about so many things we had done together in our life. And at a certain point I said, Ellie, if you are going to die, I want to be able to play with you when you leave. So give me something that I can plug into when you're no longer in a body. I said, what's your favorite symbol? And she said, I don't know. And she just closed her eyes and her head fell off my chest. And she was quiet for a while. And then all of a sudden she perked back up and she said, Spirit, I don't know my favorite symbol, but I know my favorite food. And I said, great, what is it? And she said, well, she couldn't remember much at that point. She said, well, it's like pancakes, except that it's bread with eggs on it, and you put maple syrup in. And her voice was coming back, her life force was coming back. I said, oh my God, it's French toast? And she said, yes, and she actually sat up. And that was the first time she'd sat up in I don't know how long. And she said, I want French toast. And I said, well, I tell you what, if you don't die, we'll have a celebration where we all feed each other French toast. And I told her that it was my favorite comfort food too, and I won't bother to tell you why right now. But then I said, but if you do pass, then we're going to have a memorial service where we all feed each other French toast. And she loved that idea. And she said, but I don't want to wait. I want French toast now. So I called Deborah and I said, Deborah, do we have things to make French toast? And she said, yeah, I think we can make that happen. And so Ellie pulled Deborah down onto her chest and thanked her for being there for weeks and weeks, taking care of her. And it was so sweet because it hadn't been easy for either of them, you know. So Deborah went to make French toast, and Ellie said, hold me. And I said, sure. So I put her back on my heart. And all of a sudden I had the feeling that she was going to leave right then. But I didn't want her to because her sister was coming, you know. And so I didn't tell her what I was thinking. I said to myself, Spirit, don't think that thought right now, because she's so intuitive, she'll pick it up. And so I just remained quiet. And Ellie's on my heart, and all of a sudden she said, I can't breathe, I'm leaving my body now. And I said, don't you want to wait for the French toast? And she just giggled, and then she said, I'm going now. And then she said, I can't breathe. And it was true, she wasn't breathing. And then we felt, Deborah and I, we felt for her heartbeat, but I couldn't find a heartbeat. And I was feeling like I had kind of gone with her, if that makes any sense. I had crossed some portal with her. And she had said earlier, if I die, come with me. And I said, no, I will take you across the line. But then I'm coming back to my life. I still have so much love to give and receive. And so I'm guessing, you know, nobody knows anything during a time like that, but I'm guessing that it was maybe a minute and a half or 2 minutes. No breath and no heartbeat. And then all of a sudden I just realized, oh my God, I realized that we had a choice. And so I just said, Ellie, do you want to come back? Your sister's coming in 3 or 4 hours. And no response, and no breath. And then I put my hand on her heart. Still no heartbeat. And I have to say, I was so relieved. I wanted her to get to see her sister. I wanted her sister to see her, but I was so relieved that there was no more pain. And then I said to her, Ellie, are you sure you don't want to come back? And she opened her eyes and she looked at me and she said, Spirit, what happened? I lost my body for a long time. But I was so peaceful. And so we celebrated. And I don't know, you know that movie, what's it called? The Princess Bride. And in it, one of the main characters says, oh, he was just mostly dead. Well, I'm guessing that Ellie was just mostly dead. That she had gone across the line enough to stop her body from functioning. But she was still in the vicinity, that's my guess. And so Deborah went and got French toast. And we fed her French toast. And she fed us French toast. And then she said, I want more. And she was really loud and really intense about it. Can you make me 3 more pieces? And Deborah said, yeah, I already have 3 more pieces. It's here for you. And it was so, so lovely. And at first, I thought, what an honor to get to go with Ellie across that line. Go through the portal, as she called it. But then I realized that when I had gone through with her, I didn't die, but somehow there wasn't a tunnel, there wasn't a light, there was just peace, there was just sweetness. There was my body just starting to dissolve, crumble, just no longer hold form. And there was such exquisite love. And at first I thought, I've never felt this feeling before, but I remembered I had one other time when the Kundalini rose all the way, like it does in the books. And that time I was so in the presence. I didn't see the face of God, but I felt the presence. And at that point, as I said in my Kundalini video that some of you have seen, I said, at that point there was no more questions. At first I said, oh, I know the answer to all the questions in the universe. And then, that was wrong. It was that there were no more questions. There was no more duality. There was no more possibility that anything could go wrong. There was no. And that's what happened when I went with Ellie. And I am so incredibly grateful. Because I don't know if she was ready or not. She's still alive. But somehow her soul knew that my soul wanted to go there, and my soul knew that her soul wanted to go there. What an incredible blessing. And in all sincerity, I will be relieved for her again when she can go to that exquisite peace and stay there. Thank you, Ellie. And then when I thought that I had finished helping people pass, and in this one I didn't help, But what happened is I just found out that one of my daughter's ex-husbands or ex-mates had been stabbed to death recently. And at first there was like, oh my God, I don't want my daughter to go through this again, because she had already lost her birth father. And I didn't want her to have to go through such a loss again. But you know, that only lasted maybe 2 minutes of thinking that this could be a problem. But because I had gone across the line with Ellie, I immediately came back to, oh, what a blessing that this dear man gets to live. He had been having a really hard time. He wasn't getting the love that he knew he wanted. And I thought, oh, what a blessing for my daughter. Because she doesn't need any more to hold his pain, try to fix things. Because the whole family loved him dearly. Do you hear those birds? I'm sure you heard the cars, but it's okay. So now here I am. I'm back in a place of bliss. And I remembered it theoretically before these last few weeks with all the passing. But I hadn't sunk down into the truth that there's nothing else but this love. And so for those of you, I'm thinking of my special friend who's afraid of death. For those of you who have fear of dying, I want to offer my truth that just even getting close to death returns you to the love you've always wanted, always needed. And so if I can offer you peace, because during this pandemic, if I can offer you peace that your loved ones have gone to this stillness, this wholeness, that yes, of course you'll miss them. But I find, and this is a whole other topic that I'll talk to you about some point, but I find that I sometimes have better conversations with people who are no longer in their bodies. We can talk about that, but for now, thank you so much for listening about these deaths, because I have learned so much. And I am so much more of myself, and that there's nothing that I have to do or be or fix or make a problem. So blessings on you. At the very least, may you let the old beliefs that keep you limited, the old beliefs that keep you in fear, can you let them pass on? And the last thing I want to say is namaste. I see the God in you, whether or not you're taking form in a body. Blessing.